Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it's just Marco here once again. I am here to review Better Call Saul Season 2. And what I'm doing here is I am going back and rewatching for probably the sixth time or so, rewatching all the seasons and reviewing them, so that at the end of the entire quote-unquote series, I am going to rank all the episodes and all the seasons. And that's why I'm doing this. It's not just like a random thing like with Californication, where I thought, oh, maybe I'll start re-reviewing that show. And then I did the first season, and then all of a sudden, like, I haven't done any more seasons. And then I still have to get The Lone Gunman. I have to do the X-Files 9, 10, and 11, quote-unquote. I have to do all those. So, yeah, it's a packed schedule with lots of TV, which means lots of like watching episode. It's a chore for sure, but it's a fun chore. It's like when you have to do a painting and you have to paint the whole canvas a certain color, like you want a background color. A lot of the older painters, they used to do that. They would paint all their canvases brown, and I actually have done that quite a bit for some reason, just for fun. And even though it's a chore, it's a fun chore to do. And it's better than having to watch these shitty new release movies. So anyways, Better Call Saul Season 2, it starts off, and I will say, the first episode of the season, called Switch, that is the worst episode of the first two seasons combined. It is not great. It's not well executed. It feels like it could have been a lot better given the freedom. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's what that episode is all about. It's all about Jimmy having freedom and not wanting to take the Davis and Maine job that he was offered. And yet, the episode feels like a big... it's just a big pocket of air that just, it's just not great. Like, it starts off really good, though, with the jeans scene. Every season has a jeans scene at the beginning, and the jeans scene in this one might be my favorite jeans scene, where he is done with his work, and he's going to take out the trash to this big room with trash cans, and he holds it open, and it says you can press a button or something, and it'll trigger the emergency alarm, which will bring the police, or you could just be trapped in there. And he gets trapped in there, and it's really intense, actually. Like, it was a sequence where a character gets into a tough situation and they don't know how they're going to get out of it. And of course, at the end of that, the janitor lets him out, and we see that he wrote SG was here, and I thought that was cool. And so, yeah, it starts off really, really good. Like, that opening scene is really good. It's not a masterful scene, but it's really, really good. And it certainly makes you expect that the following minutes are going to be good. But they're not really that good. It's all about Jimmy, and he just wants to sit around all day at a country club, I guess, and he wants to sit there in the pool and, like, just eat and drink. Like, really? Like, I get what they were saying, but he already did that in the finale. Like, he already did that. In the finale of season 1, that's what it's all about. It's all about how he realized that Chuck hates him and he doesn't want him to succeed. So he goes back and sees his best friend, and he just figures, fuck it. Maybe I can just go back to being a con man, and I can just cruise through life and not like try to pursue anything professional. That's what that episode was all about. And it was so much more well done than this. And this was just him in this hotel or whatever the fuck, and then Kim, she comes over and they con the Chad guy from Breaking Bad. It's a pretty episode. There is some stuff with Mike and that Price, is that what his name was? The guy selling pills illegally. And I think that's the episode. No, it's not. That was in season 1. See, I'm already getting confused because there's just so much stuff to talk about. There is some good stuff where he buys this flamboyant car, and you know that that's going to lead to problems. And Mike does the same thing as Jimmy, where he says, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to lay back and just let what happens. And that's the thing that I sort of love about this season, is that all the characters' stories mirror each other. You have Mike, and he starts off a certain way, he ends up a certain way. Jimmy, same. Kim, kind of the same. All the stories they're different, but they're similar, to where they all feel connected without being actually connected. And that's something that I think is the best part about this season. Regardless of the season's flaws, which there are few and far between, regardless of that, it is a very well-constructed season for the most part. And that's where we're going to get to the second issue. The first half of this season is not as good as it could have been, and I graded each episode with a letter grade, and I could just see the quality difference between this and season 1. I could see like the disjointedness in the first half where Jimmy is at Davis and Maine, and it feels very constricted and very constrained. And it's purposeful because all the characters feel constricted, constrained. You have Kim. Because of Jimmy's mistake, she's put down in the basement. And so she's constricted by her shitty boss, Howard. And that's another thing, too, is that, why did we ever care about Howard getting killed in season 6? Seriously, F that guy. He's trash. In this season, he is definitely the weakest link of the whole season. Because in season 2, he is literally Chuck's bitch. That's all he is. After that reveal in season 1, where you think, oh, maybe he's actually going to change. Maybe him telling Kim that near the end, maybe that's the start of a new path. No, it's not. In season 2, he is riding Chuck's meat so hard that Chuck can literally just say, fire that person, put that person in the basement, punish that person. And Howard will just do whatever he says because he looks up to him so much. He's such a little bitch. And I just can't stand that. I can't stand that. But you know what? It's smart writing in terms of this season, because it shows what Jimmy and Kim could have turned into given the time. The time that it would take for that to happen, that transformation. It shows this is what they would look like if they stayed in this corporate environment. And that's the other good thing, is that even though Kim in the first season, she's very different to Jimmy, and she does not agree with him cutting corners. She doesn't like it. She hates it. She thinks it's it's not how I would do things. She's very particular about it. But at the same time, in season 2, she becomes the anti-Skylar, where she'll find out that he did something really bad, and she'll pretend that he didn't do it, but then she'll kind of like hint to him that he should do other things to fix certain things. And she's like really cool in this season. And I really like her character a lot. And at this point, she's like one of my favorite female characters I've seen in a TV show. So that's what I really liked about her in this season. She almost becomes the anti-Skylar. And she's so similar to Jimmy in the sense that she doesn't want to be in that corporate atmosphere as well. You know, she wants to do her own thing just like Jimmy. And I really, really like that. I think that that's really cool. I didn't expect that. I expected her to just stay loyal to Howard, her almighty Lord and Savior Howard, who paid for her schooling. I expected her to do something shitty and mainstream like that, since she is morally different to Jimmy. But she quits and she just straight up says, you know what, Jimmy, let's start a building, a practice, but not together. We're next to each other, but we're not going to be working together. And I just thought that was so cool. Like, I just really liked that idea a lot. And that was one of my favorite things about this season, was seeing them form their relationship. And, you know, they're so good together, but not like together, which is what they push in seasons 4, 5, and 6, unfortunately. And we all know how that turned out. But for now, it's still separate, but equal. Wink, wink. And then we have Mike. And Mike, God, you gotta feel bad for Mike. If you didn't feel bad for him in season 1, you're definitely gonna feel bad for him in season 2. Because Karen, I'm just gonna call her Karen. Because she will literally call Mike if she hears a pin drop in the kitchen. And I know what that's like, because I have a similar type of anxiety problem to that type of thing. But to this extent, like, she is so paranoid and so, like, she's a leech. She's leeching off of this old man, this broken old man who, fucking an ex-cop. She's leeching off of him, and she's just so, like, she'll just call him and be like, Mike, I'm really scared that I won't have a hot tub this Christmas. And Mike will be like, okay, just please leave me alone. I just want to get some sleep, and she's making him stay up all night to, like, patrol the neighborhood. Like, it's insane what this bitch, this Karen, and I still like her character. I'm just making jokes, I still like her character, of course. But she is such a Karen, and she's pushing him to, like, okay, I have to do the next level of illegal activities, and I have to go to the next level and the next level. What's next? I'm going to have to kill people, innocent people. That's Mike's journey this season. It's a really tough and dark thing to watch. To me, it's darker than what Jimmy goes through this season. It's darker because he, at one point, I will say, the second best episode of the season, the first best is the finale, Click. That's all I'll say about that for now. But the second best episode of this season is definitely Gloves Off, where Mike has to do something for Nacho, where you think he's going to kill Tuco. But he's not going to, because he's in Breaking Bad, or it's going to fail somehow, and you don't know. And then it turns out Mike comes up with an ingenious, different plan, where he just gets beaten up to shreds by Tuco. He just gets beaten to a pulp, by Tuco. And that scene, seeing Tuco and Mike together, interacting, that was so cool. And that whole, that is an A+ episode. And it was such a it was so dark because this old man, he's taking a beating so that this mother and daughter can live in a better house, quote unquote. And then, of course, he ends up getting more money off of Hector. And Hector is something else amazing about this season. Because originally, if you guys didn't know, they wanted in Breaking Bad to have Hector walking around as a villain, and then he would get in a wheelchair by the end of season 3. Well, instead of doing that in Breaking Bad, they already put him in a wheelchair. And in this, in Better Call Saul, since it's a prequel, he gets to walk around and fully talk, and it is so cool to see that. It was such, you guys don't, I don't think you guys will even know how much of a pleasant surprise it was to see his character walking around, talking, interacting. Like, it was such a great thing. It was such a great idea. It was a stroke of genius. And his character, he's pretty villainous. Like, he's pretty cold, he's evil, and he'll just kill anyone, and he's really cold. And Mike gets to more money out of him than Hector even wanted to give him. And then Mike gets really pissed off because the whole the twins come and threaten his granddaughter, and that was an amazing scene. I mean, you guys want to talk about great scenes. Acting like Kim yelling at Lalo is a great scene. Well, what about the scene where Kaylee is playing in the pool, and then you see on the roof of this building nearby, the twins are standing there pointing their little fingers at her. And like, that was an incredibly creepy, suspenseful scene. And stuff like that in this season, it's so much better than the later seasons. It's so much smarter. It's like they're doing a lot without doing that much. You know, they're not spending the whole episode doing drug stuff. They're not spending the whole episode having shootouts and explosions. There's just these moments and these scenes that come up where you get these amazing things that happen like that. That was so unexpected and so horrifying, because you know the twins would kill Kaylee in a heartbeat. And that's the other thing, is that this is so good. This season is so good that even though you know characters are going to live, you still feel it. You still feel pain in your stomach from the suspense that they're giving you in the story. And so that's really cool as well. And I don't feel that at all in the later seasons at all. So especially that whole Nacho situation where you have him surrounded by all these people who die in Breaking Bad, and you're supposed to feel some sort of a, you know, because let's be honest, if those characters in season 6, if they weren't in Breaking Bad, I can almost guarantee you 100% that they would have had Mike rescue Nacho and kill all those people for the most part. Like, I guarantee it would have been different. So that's what I'm saying. Very contrived in the later seasons. Compared to this, where you genuinely feel suspense and tension. Very much intense feelings that you get from this season. But I love the story of how Mike, in the first half, he's constrained, he's held down by his daughter-in-law. You know, she's this Karen, she's just holding him down, making him give her all this money that he doesn't even have. And he needs money to pay his own bills and things. And then in the second half, it's like he's pissed off. He is sick of this Karen. And so he figures, you know what, maybe I'll do something smart and I'll rip off Hector and I'll steal from him in a really easy way where hopefully no one gets killed. Very, very good plan that he had that ended up getting 2 innocent people killed. But he's free at least. He's doing everything himself. He doesn't have any master that he's looking up to, that he's taking orders from. He's not Chuck's bitch. He's not Nacho's bitch. He is his own master. And just watching him in the second half go after Hector is really cool, especially in the finale when he's gonna kill him with a sniper rifle, and you have all this buildup, and it's not gonna happen, or you think maybe he could shoot him and that would paralyze him. I don't know, but then you get that moment where the car horn sounds. And then there's a note that says, "Don't." And it's like, oh, shit. Like, that was such a perfection. That was pure perfection, that whole sequence. So Mike's story this season, I really think that Mike's story is the best thing in the whole season. I would say that Mike's story is A++++. Now, Jimmy, we didn't really talk about his experience at Davison, Maine. And that's because one of the problems of this season is the balancing of these different stories. There's this one episode where, I love Kim. As I said, one of my favorite female characters in this season. But there's this episode, I think it was Rebecca, where they spend like 6 to 8 minutes showing Kim calling people, doing these little sticky notes, and I get that they love to do montages. They have like a montage every episode, which I'm fine with. You know why? Because it emphasizes that this is much different than the Breaking Bad world, where they just, they cook meth and they show that whole experience. This is much different. They have to do all sorts of things that are menial tasks, really stupid, boring, dull, laborious tasks. And they may not be the most exciting things, but the way they're put together, these montages, they're really good. And I really like them. I think that they said that a certain person puts the montages together themselves. He or she did a really good job. And that's one of the other cool things. But there is like an 8-minute montage of Kim just sticking sticky notes, calling people so that she can try to get a big case, a big thing so that she can get out of the basement. And it is, it's hard to watch. I gotta be honest, I fast forwarded through, both times they showed that, because I've seen it already a million times. I don't need to see it again. But that whole time that they spent doing that, they could have been showing Jimmy. And that's where we start to get problems with the show. Is they want to have like a balance for some reason, where they have 25% Jimmy, 25% Chuck, 25% Kim, and 25% Mike. And the balancing act that they have to do by doing that, I really don't think it's worth it. Especially as we move on to seasons 4, 5, and 6, I don't think it works at all. I think that it's heavily flawed, and that it's something that Hell on Wheels tried to do and failed with. It's something that a lot of shows try to do. And what it ends up doing is it takes focus off of the main story and the main character, which is not good. You don't want that to happen. I mean, in Hell on Wheels, did we really need a whole fucking episode where Common heals from his bear attack, and he lives with this Native American tribe, and then he like kills some of them and leaves? Like, did we really need a whole 50-minute episode of that? Like, no, we didn't at all. And that was But that's what they start doing in this Better Call Saul. They have this like balancing act that they do, and the reason is because they want to not do any other shows. They, they would like to do a Better Call Mike, but maybe he's too old to do that. So what they do is they just say, okay, let's take all of our ideas for that show and implant them into this show. Let's take all of our ideas for a Kim spinoff and insert them into this show. Let's take all of our ideas for a Nacho spinoff, which that'll never happen because they fucked that character over a million times and over. And let's implant them all into this show. And it's sort of insulting, the fact that they think so little of their main character, that they just want to insert all these other storylines together to take away the shine of the main character. In Twin Peaks, they did the same thing, but it was all connected. It all fit together in those first 2 seasons. It all fit. It all serviced the story for the most part, and there was some problems with that. Like in the second season, the whole James and Evelyn story, and the little Dickie or little Nicky story, whatever the fuck that was. There was problems with that too, with trying to create this balancing act where you're kind of filling in space. And so we already have an issue with filling in space where you should have filled it in with Jimmy. And they try to have the story in the first half. And I haven't even gotten to Chuck yet, Jesus. But they try to have this story in the first half where he's constrained at Davis and Maine firm. And he really does not fit in. He even says himself, I'm a square peg. And I don't know if that implies if Kim pegs him or not, but, he does say I'm a square peg. So, I would speculate that Kim pegs him at some point. Just saying. But that whole story, he does like one thing. And he does this commercial without Cliff's approval. And that's something else about this season, is the film crew is in this season like 4 times. And they also add my favorite member of the film crew, which would be the makeup girl. I would say that she's like my favorite character of the film crew. And she's also one of my favorite characters of the whole series because she's so funny and so cool. The other 2 are kind of like stereotypes. She's not really as much of a stereotype. She's just really funny. Like, especially that part in episode 8 or 9 where he's shooting at the school. Jimmy's shooting at the school. And he has to make up this excuse to the teachers of why he's there. And he says, this is the school where that Pina Colada guy, whatever the fuck that songwriter went to school at. And she's like, isn't he English? you just see the look of defeat on Jimmy's face, like, God, this bitch. And she, like, that was so funny. It's still funny after seeing it like a million times. I mean, she's just so funny. And stuff like that, just, wow, it's just so good. But he does this one commercial, and Cliff, he's a jackass. Like, he is just the worst. Like, he is pretty nice in terms of, like, reality. Like, if you were to want to be a lawyer at a firm and you would want a position somewhere, like, I would want to work at Clifford's firm, probably, more so than Howard's. But in terms of the show, he comes off like a jackass, of course, because you're seeing this story through Jimmy's perspective, where this is why he became Saul, because of stuff like this, because he doesn't fit in this uptight corporate world. And so immediately after that, Clifford puts puts this shitty second-year lawyer named Aaron with him, and wow, like, she is an amazing actress. Like, her whole first scene where, well, I don't think it's her first scene, but it's her first scene where she interacts with Jimmy. The first scene where he's getting ready to leave, and it's at nighttime, and you see this creepy girl, she just pops up out of nowhere, and Jimmy's like, whoa, what the I didn't even see you. And she's like a ghost. I mean, she could be a ghost in a fucking Ghostbusters Part 2, Afterlife Part 2. And she's like, I noticed that in the trash can you put a can there, and I also noticed that your paper, it had a period that was spaced wrongly. And she just like rattles off all these things, and you see him, he's just like completely befuddled by this audacious biatch who's just coming in and just destroying him. Like, he's like, what the hell? Like, I've already done this. I've already got my work done. Like, you're not even the head of the place. You're this second year lawyer. And so she makes him stay late at night to do this shit. And it's really funny, and it's really like, it makes you feel suffocated. The feeling of like just imagining like she is so rude and so like a helicopter parent, to the point of where he thinks that she's going to follow him into the bathroom. Like, it's really, really hard to watch. And, you just have this feeling that he doesn't fit here. He does not fit at all. And so then, of course, he sabotages himself so that he can get fired. And that whole montage is amazing. That is another highlight of the season. That was so funny, and it was so perfect, because it just showed you, like, even though he's not Saul Goodman, anywhere near being Saul Goodman yet, that was a whole montage of Saul Goodman, and that was a highlight of the season. And he ends up getting fired, and it actually, you think that it's going to feel good, like, you think he's going to go in there. That's a lot of this season, is you think something's going to go a certain way, and then it doesn't. And I like that a lot. I like that for sure. But he goes into Cliff's office, and you think it's going to be this really satisfying moment where he just says, F you, Cliff, and then he leaves. But it actually turns out to be this, like, very sad moment where, he almost, like, regrets the fact that he ever even took the job and caused all this trouble for these people there. And it's a really good scene in the way that, the dynamic between them, it's very sad, because, Cliff, he's not out to get Jimmy like his brother is. He liked Jimmy. He respected Jimmy. He thought maybe Jimmy could be a lawyer forever at this firm. And so it was a very sad scene, because he's heading down a dark path. He's heading down a bad choice road, quote unquote, that will make him end up in a bad place eventually. So that whole first half, I do think that could have been better in terms of, I think there could have been more story there. I think there could have been more lawyer stuff for him to deal with at the firm, so that we could see him do more stuff. And so let's get to Chuck, because he is really another highlight of the season. He has become, at this point, he is inching towards the villain spot, which is funny since, in Breaking Bad you had Tuco, you had Gus, you had the twins, you had fucking the stupid Nazi characters who are trash. In this, you have just a lawyer. He's just a lawyer. That's all this Chuck guy is. He's just this regular, everyday lawyer. And he's been elevated to this high status. And he's almost like a a Howard Hughes type of character where he's become reclusive and he's shut himself in and he has this mental illness. And we see in the first half of the season that he is ready to sabotage Jimmy at every moment that he can. He is ready to just step all over any progress that Jimmy makes. He's ready to embarrass him. He's ready to humiliate him. And just seeing, like, it is very realistic. But just seeing this sinister brother character act like that is just really, like, unnerving. Because you think, like, is it, like, why does he, like, are they even related? Like, they don't act related at all, because Chuck is such a shithead. And, so Jimmy has to adapt to that. And seeing that is pretty interesting. Could have been better, I will say. Could have been, but see, they don't want him to be a full villain yet. Because there's still this question. Maybe Chuck really loves Jimmy, and maybe he will, maybe he'll change his tune. Maybe he really does love Jimmy, and we get that question answered in the finale. And it is not a good turnout, but sadly. But in the first half, we have that whole storyline happen, and then when his plans to sabotage Jimmy don't work, guess what he does? He sabotages and punishes Kim. And it's like, God, this guy is evil. Like, so hurting Jimmy doesn't work. So then he's going to hurt his girlfriend. Like, that's how creepy and evil this guy is. Like, really, really evil person. And then in the second half, something happens where Chuck, once again, he's going at Kim, and he gets back her whole bank client that she got, Mesa Verde, and we have this reversal of what happened in season 1, where Jimmy sneaks in, and while Chuck is asleep, because he's so traumatized from the electricity at the Mesa Verde meeting, and Jimmy sneaks in there and changes the numbers on these filing papers, and he sets back the bank, like, I don't know, 7 weeks, and, like, he really fucks them up, and makes it look like Chuck did it, because Chuck is old, and he's confused, and blah, 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 and then, of course, Kim gets them back, and Chuck just can't stand that he made a mistake. And the brilliant part about it is that we, the audience, think that maybe Chuck is a sympathetic character somewhat, and maybe he really just, he's really upset that he made this mistake. He's really sad. Maybe he feels betrayed by Jimmy. Maybe he really loves Jimmy. And then in the finale, it starts off, and, well, of course, we had the whole printer shop thing. That whole sequence was A+++++. There are like 4 or 5 A+ episodes this season. In season 1, there's like 5 or 6. So that's how good these 2 first seasons are. But we see the ultimate evil thing where Jimmy and Chuck, they've been sitting in the hospital for hours. And Jimmy's hungry. I mean, why is that bad? Like, it's just, why is that so bad? Like, people now, when they talk about Saul, they're like, oh no, Jimmy left the hospital to get food. Like, who cares? Like, he was hungry. Like, seriously, like, just how would he know that she's gonna die in, like, the minute that he leaves and to get some food? Like, that's so stupid that people actually use that as an example of Jimmy being evil. When in reality, you see that Chuck, he's very heartbroken that his mom is calling only for Jimmy. And then he decides not to tell Jimmy that his mom was calling for him. And that whole sequence, that was extremely sad and evil. Yet again, more evil coming from Chuck, and we really see this guy he has a heart of ice. He does not love Jimmy in the slightest. Or maybe he will a little bit, who knows, but, it's pretty much, to me, it's like, he's full villain. And then he puts on this whole performance where, you think, oh no, he's really sad about having all these tests done to him. He's having all these issues, and Jimmy takes him home because he finds out that maybe Jimmy's going to commit him. And at that point, he starts putting on this performance so that Jimmy will take him home and eventually admit to changing the numbers. And that whole performance that Chuck puts on, the show was so amazing at this point that you genuinely did not know whether Chuck was good or evil until the last second of this season, because you think you're kind of led along. You think maybe he's good, and then there's this whole hilarious thing where he does something almost that Jimmy would do, where he puts all this space blankets up all over the walls. And you think like, oh shit, like this is getting way out of hand, and Jimmy's like, he's like, I'm just gonna tell him that I did it, and he does, and it's a very good scene. And by the way, I didn't even mention how we had a fantastic scene where Kim finally interacts with Chuck, and she shuts him down. And she tells the truth that, Chuck is the one who makes Jimmy the way he is, ironically. But in that whole last scene, he gets Jimmy to admit that he did what he did. And then at the very last second, he lifts off this aluminum foil and he presses stop on this tape recorder. And you think like, Jesus, this guy is evil. This guy is pure evil. The fact he put on this whole performance, and you don't know, that's the other fucked up thing with Chuck, is you don't know when did he decide to put on this performance? When did he plan to put on this performance that would end up making Jimmy confess? It's pretty creepy and sinister. And it really just goes to show that Chuck does not love Jimmy at all. To plot at him like this is just something no matter how much you're mad at a relative, no true blood relative would ever do this type of thing to their other relative. And so we get to find out Chuck is evil. And so he is going to be Jimmy's adversary. Kim even says she's building it up. She's foreshadowing. Chuck is going to be, he would be a very dangerous adversary. He would be a very tough villain to beat. And she was foreshadowing the fact that that's what was going to end up happening in a very bad way. So I give this season, just talking about the season, it's hard to say if this is better than season 1 because season 1 had more moments where Jimmy did cool things. And I know that that's kind of like a silly, childish thing to say, but to me it matters that in a show called Better Call Saul, that Jimmy would do some cool things that would be very impressive and make you think, this is a really strong main character. I don't know. I just really don't know. But in terms of food, I'm going to give this, you guys are going to be surprised. I've given this rating quite a few times, but it's really because this is what I remember eating every time back in the day when I would watch this show. the day after it aired, and I didn't have to review it, I just watched it for fun, I would go out and I would get tropical smoothie. Back when I used to eat tropical smoothie. And I would get a regular coffee, mocha madness, a turkey bacon ranch sandwich, and oven baked Lay's. And I remember thinking, like, this is such a refreshing and delicious meal. All the different elements work together. You have the sweet smoothie, you have the salty chips, you have the vegetables and the meat and the cheese and the sauce and the sandwich. Everything works together. And if you guys wonder the reason why I don't go to Tropical Smoothie anymore, they ended up really disappointing me because they ended up changing the coffee or the chocolate in the Mocha Madness. And so now it tastes terrible. And it tastes nothing like it used to. And not only that, but the sandwich ingredients, that they used to be really fresh. And I would eat everything. I'd eat the tomato, I'd eat the cheese, I'd eat the lettuce, I'd eat the bacon. But now, all of the elements, just like with Better Call Saul, by the way, all the elements don't seem fresh anymore. All of them feel like they've been, okay, now we're bigger, we're a bigger company, so let's buy cheap, shitty ingredients, and let's just have it taste terrible. So that's what happened with Tropical Smoothie. Very, very sad because it was a pretty healthy meal. It was a pretty refreshing, nice meal to have. I gotta make it myself at home, I guess. But that's what I give Better Call Saul Season 2. And so please like this video, comment, tell me what you thought of Season 2. And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see reviews of all future seasons. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.